So we are recording. Welcome. We have Val, and we have John, and we have Heidi, and we also have over 70 people who registered to either attend live or get a copy of the webinar. So I'm really excited to hear that there is some interest in publishing for the FLTMAG because we're really not overwhelmed by submissions right now. And so we decided to put up this webinar to talk about what the FLTMAG is and the type of publications that we are looking for. And really to encourage anybody who has an idea or who wants to publish something to just go ahead and publish or submit something. We'll talk a little bit about the submission process. So just a few words about us. I'm the founder and editor of the FLTMAG, and Adrian really is the co-founder and editor. We've been doing this for 3 years now. And on the board, we also have Nick Eintertz, who is a lecturer at the International English Center at CU Boulder. And we also have Naomi Walls, who is a foreign language and technology specialist, also at CU Boulder. So it's a little bit of a CU Boulder-centric organization. Adrian is the Associate Director of the Center for World Languages and Culture at Denver University. So you are our non-CU connection, Adrian. And I'm the Director of the Graduate Certificate in Language Teaching with Technology that's offered by the Division of Continuing Education at CU Boulder. So Adrian is just going to give you a little bit of background information. Adrian, I just added that we are on NPO. Remember, we did all the paperwork. So. Yeah.
Okay, do you want to share your screen, Edwige? So I've got, or your slides.
Okay, wait. I thought they were shared. Share screen. Okay, can you see them?
Yep, great. Okay, so like Edwige was saying, we've been at it for a couple of years now. And have had the opportunity to put together a few what we think are really strong issues. And in the last couple of years, we've built up a readership of between 500 and 1,500 visits per week, and that varies depending on whether it's when we've released a new issue or not. So we're getting really good traffic, and I think that a lot of these visits are coming from K-12 teachers. Correct me if I'm wrong, Edwige. I don't know if we have specific demographics about who's reading.
I've never looked at the Google Analytics. That's definitely on my list. It would be interesting to see. But we have readers from all over the world. When you look at the map, people are coming from everywhere.
Right, right. So, primarily for us, this is the goal is to be a practice-oriented publication that can come out a few times a year, where teachers have a chance to just share ideas, talk about what they're doing in their classes. You know, a lot of times language teachers end up alone in their schools and don't really have a community in which they can bounce ideas around or learn new things. So this is a chance for us to provide that space and hopefully get some really great idea sharing going. So like I mentioned, we have 3 issues per year: Marchish, July-ish, and November-ish. And we release all of our work for free to access online. So we have several different kinds of submissions, and Edwige will start talking about that.
Yeah, I'll talk about the biggest one, the article, ish. And I'm sorry if I have to mute you guys just because otherwise we have too much background. But we said ish because, to be honest with you, sometimes we get late submissions, and sometimes it just takes a little bit more time to go back and review the articles and publish them. But the main thing that we're looking for really, it's articles. And when we first started the magazine, we decided to do longer pieces and shorter pieces. I had envisioned writing more investigative articles, and time is scarce as always. But we did publish a pretty extensive review or study of the flipped classroom, and that's an example of a feature article. This is where you don't just talk about your personal practices, what you do in the classroom, but this is where you go out and you interview some teachers and you try to get a comprehensive picture of what's going on with a given topic. So, for example, one topic that I would love to explore in the next few months is the future of the language textbook. So, if anybody's interested also in collaborating on a more extensive piece, I would love to work with somebody. But what we've mostly been publishing are articles, and we really welcome submissions that describe individual practices, opinion papers. The average length is 2,000 words. I usually tell authors that they should use however many words they need to convey their message. You can describe a classroom project, you can describe the way you've been using an emerging technology, how you've redesigned your space, an opinion piece. You know, maybe you don't think that the flipped classroom is a thing and you want to share something. But if there is anything that you've done or thought about that you think somebody else would like to learn or hear or read about, you probably have something valuable to contribute to the FLTMAG. And also, if you have a not fully formed idea, you're also welcome to submit a 2 to 3 sentence description and or you know, even an outline. The best way to really get a sense of what we publish is to read a few of our articles, and then you'll see what we're looking for. We are only looking for original content. So, and you know, if you've published an extensive study in a scholarly article, you may want to talk about it in a more casual conversational manner, but it would really have to be substantially rewritten. If you are trying to repurpose something that was not accepted elsewhere, it will also need, especially if it's a scholarly publication, it will need to be significantly changed, because we're really not looking at publishing 20-page articles with extensive lit reviews. We're looking for preferably articles written in the first person, because you're talking about your experience. In a conversational style. We like humor. You know, you're telling a story. And we love photos from your classroom, as long as they're high quality, direct quotes from students. So really more of a journalistic style, I guess, is what we're shooting for. If you do submit photos, we of course want you to provide proper credits. If you're working with minors, you need to make sure that you have permission to publish those photos, and if not, you'll need to blur their faces. And like Adrienne said, this is a practice-oriented publication, so do whatever you can do to make your article really useful. You'll probably notice that in many articles, our authors share their handouts or their lesson plans or you know, PDF files, anything that will make it easy for somebody else to replicate your project or what you did. It's really about sharing. Always provide hyperlinks to anything that you quote, and that's online. We do want a reference list. We don't want an extensive review, but there are always, you know, 6 to 7 references per article. And we do follow the Chicago style, and I linked to it. So that's the main type of article we're looking for. I'll say that we've been working really, really closely with our writers. Sometimes we get articles that need quite a bit of work. And if the authors are willing to work with us, we work together. We don't just read the articles and say yes or no. We read them, Adrienne and I and Nick and Naomi, we talk about them, and then we provide very specific in-text feedback on, you know, what we want, how things should be reorganized when necessary. Sometimes we get pieces that are just ready to get published, and we love those too. So, you know, don't hesitate to send us those as well. They're really nice. So that's the article, and then Adrienne is going to talk a little bit about the interviews and the tech highlights.
Okay, so one of the other types of submission that we like to include in FLTMAG are interviews with people in the field, is what we've been doing to this point. So we'll identify somebody who we think has something interesting to share with our community of teachers, and then ask them a few questions about what they do. So this is kind of a creative, potentially creative way to submit something. If there's somebody who you think has something to share, and you like the idea of including a very conversational Q&A kind of submission, this might be a good option. Before going out and interviewing anybody, we recommend that you reach out to us first, and we can work together to think about what kinds of questions might be appropriate for the publication, and whether or not the interviewee is somebody who we think might be good for this. But Edwige, do you have anything to add here?
Um, just so that you know, we usually shoot for 7 to 10 questions. And we do the interviews over the phone, we record them, and we transcribe them. So if you want to interview somebody, you will need to do the transcription yourself. Let's see. Oh, and usually what we do is we send the transcription to the person we interviewed so that they can look it over.
Right.
And we let them make changes, just because sometimes when we talk spontaneously, we don't always say exactly what we want to say the way we want to say it.
Right, so it wouldn't be necessarily a word-for-word detailed transcription. I like to think of it as like how you will see in magazines sometimes, an interview with a celebrity where the article or the interviewer is asking some questions, and then there's a transcribed answer, which has most definitely been edited to some extent,
Yeah.
just for readability.
And we would love to actually publish the interview, but the quality is usually just not good enough for it to be a pleasant experience.
Right. Podcasts, perhaps down the line in the future.
We will have to compete with BVP, though.
That's right.
I don't know about that. But yes, that's an interview. Just check with us. Say, hey, there's this person, and I have to say that I do know a lot of world language teachers who do amazing work, and they don't really present at conferences, and they don't do anything to promote what they do. But they would definitely, it would definitely be interesting to a lot of people to hear what they are doing.
Yeah, and make for a really compelling and relevant interview.
Yeah. The tech highlights.
Tech highlights. These are fun and fast, quick little blurbs, essentially, where we explore emerging technology tools that can be used in language teaching and learning. Pretty short, 300 to 500 words. We like to see screenshots and descriptions, talk about the shortcomings and the advantages, and just give the readers a chance to get to know a new tool that they might want to consider using in their classrooms. It's really nice to hear examples of how this has been used, and perhaps even including some student experience and teacher experience with the tool to kind of give an idea of how this works in within a lesson.
We're not necessarily looking for the latest tools, but we probably don't publish anything about Google Drive at this point. It's pretty mainstream. People know what it does. But anything with virtual reality is interesting right now. And of course we can't, these are really easy to write. You'd be surprised they're done just like that. Obviously we can't publish 20 of those per issue. So if you have an idea of a technology to review, just email me, email Adrian, and usually we'll say, yeah, go for it. Or we'll say, well, how about this other tool? And so that's a really good way to get started with the FLTMAG. We've had some authors who published multiple tech highlights, and they email us on a regular basis saying, hey, been using this tool, how about I write a review? So I don't want to overemphasize the fact that the whole process is pretty casual, but it is pretty casual, and it's also, I think, a nicer publishing experience. I don't think I'm the only one having been burned by trying to get published. We're really, really nice. So, yeah, don't hesitate. So the submission process is usually, here's how it goes. We want to receive the documents via Google Docs because this is how the board communicates. Like I said, we don't just read the articles. The reviewers read them. We leave comments in the text. We do a lot of work around those articles. So Google Docs definitely makes it easier for us to review the articles. And then what we do usually is we put comments in the article and we share it back with you so that you can start working on the revisions. All the articles are always reviewed by at least 2 of the editors. The review process is not blind. But somebody was asking us did you see my email, Adrian? Somebody was asking us whether we were technically a peer-reviewed publication. Everything is reviewed by peers, so I guess. Anyway, and the process is anywhere between 2 and 6 weeks. Sometimes the authors need more time to do the revisions. Sometimes we need more time to provide feedback. But
and we understand that everybody here is a teacher and is busy and is doing this as something extra on the side. So so we do want to be considerate of everyone's time and understanding and give an opportunity to get involved like this, taking into consideration that you guys are all really busy.
Yeah, so just, let us know about your schedule. We don't really have any submissions for July, so please, by all means, submit something. So this is it for the presentation of the magazine and what we're looking for. We are ready to take questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I've lost my chat window and now it's back. All right, so I see that we have Nicholas and John and Val and Abby and Brandon. You guys are here. Do you have ideas of things that you want to publish about? Before I muted everybody, so unmute your microphones before you talk or we will not be able to hear you. But what are you guys interested in? Would you like to do a tech highlight or do you have an article idea? What are you thinking?
This is John speaking. One of the things that I'm at UCLA Center for Digital Humanities, and we provide technology support to the entire humanities division, including our language classes. And one of the things that we're trying to understand better so that we can advise our faculty better is really sort of the pedagogy that underlies any teaching approach. And the technology is really sort of tertiary. Like, what's the goal? What are the best ways of achieving that goal? And how can technology help us do that, right? Mm-hmm. Are you at all interested in articles that approach technology from that standpoint? I mean, that's getting a little bit more academic, I think.
Mm-hmm.
No, I personally think that's great. I want to make it really clear to everyone who I work with when I'm training teachers that the technology is like you said, it's tertiary. We need to think about what the learning outcomes are and the best way to achieve those outcomes. And oftentimes there is a tool for that, but we shouldn't start with a tool and then build around that. That's my personal belief. So I for one, I think that's really important, and I am interested in that.
I am too. We would want something focused specifically on languages because this is what the magazine is about. But I think there is a lot to write about the connection between technology and pedagogy. What angle would you be looking at? I can think of 2 or 3 different ways that you could approach it. Would you take the angle of the challenges of the instructional designer who works with faculty, or would you take would it be more of a piece for language teachers and language faculty on how to work with technology and instructional technologies? What are you thinking?
Well, I'd have to discuss it with my colleagues because I'm unfortunately one step removed from the classroom in most language classes these days, which saddens me, but it is the nature of the beast, I'm afraid. But the approach that I would take, that I would want to take, would be something very practical. Mm-hmm. So, maybe, there's the short version, which is a technology review. This is a tool that we've used, but here's the context in which we use it. This is a educational theory we're trying to replicate, and here's our experience using it to replicate it. If we did a couple of those and that went well, and we had a big enough case study, then I could maybe see talking about a particular case study. So a particular instance, for example, when one of our faculty flipped their class, and talking about the challenges they encountered, the tools that they used, the approaches, sort of the reasons why. But, again, not just this is a cool technology. Mm-hmm. Here's the pedagogy that led us in that direction. And ideally, here is the impact. Did we figure out a way to measure impact effectively?
Absolutely. You're mute, Adrian.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Okay.
I think that's, yeah, absolutely. I think that would be something really interesting for for people to read. And it's, you know, we keep saying we don't want it to be heavily academic, but it is nice to have a review of our teaching methods and pedagogical best practices.
Yeah, I'm not thinking about, you know, doing like an 8-page bibliography or anything.
Right. Yeah. No, I think it's important to revisit those things.
Okay.
In the context of practice.
Yeah, when I said we don't want extensive lit reviews, I mean, there's nothing wrong with starting an introduction, especially if you're doing the flipped classroom, for example. It's been around for a while. We can have a good grip on, you know, what are the main challenges, what are the main opportunities. But I think this topic alone would be worth revisiting now. Technologies have changed, things have evolved. So, yeah. Brandon.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Brandon, unmute your microphone before.
Can you hear me? I unmuted.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. This was very informative, and it sounds like a fun place to share what we do. I work personally, I'm a medievalist. I have a PhD in medieval Italian literature from Chapel Hill, and I teach at Elon University, which is a liberal arts school that's very strongly focused on outstanding undergraduate instruction. So I most recently have been working with teaching medieval and Renaissance literature with video games.
Oh, wow.
I just taught a course, a capstone seminar for juniors and seniors on Dante's Inferno, from poem to video game. And it's going really well. And I wonder, it feels to me like I could share even one of the ways in the course of 15 weeks that we use this game for one of the first times I can find documented to study the poem. And I've documented all of my students' work and got permissions and everything because this is coming to show just the kind of the potential gains, but also kind of some of the weaknesses they encountered. So I don't know if it's something you've done already or if it's something you'd be interested in, but video games for me are the present and the future of teaching, in this case, literature and Italian. You know, that's the language part, but I don't know. How does that sound? Might it fit? Might it not?
Yeah, that sounds great.
That sounds like a whole series to me. That could be really, really interesting.
Yeah, it's a really rich and relatively untouched pedagogical approach in my field, anyway.
Yeah, and gaming is the hot thing right now. So
yeah,
I'm teaching a whole course on gaming this summer, so I'm definitely interested in hearing about your experience. But yes, and we've been thinking, we did one special issue once, and it was great. We did a special issue on ADA compliance. It was really probably our best issue, but it was so much work.
Yeah.
So we're all volunteers, I should say. You know that we're an NPO.
Sure.
So, you know, that's why our issues come a little bit late sometimes. It's not necessarily a good excuse. But I could see download a special issue on gaming. I think we should do that at some point. But in the meantime, I would love to hear about your experience. It sounds really interesting.
Yeah, the payoff for the students was very high, and they, you know, a lot of folks who auto-identified as, well, I don't understand literature. How could I do this? They're from different disciplines, you know. But the game really gave them a powerful way to visualize and to wonder about the words and go deeper. So,
yeah,
okay, I'll just put that away, but that's what I'm doing right now.
Definitely.
Great. John, you had a follow-up question?
Yeah, the first half of the follow-up question is for Brandon, just to clarify one point about your project, but then the other half of it is for Edwidge and Adrian. Brandon, was the class taught in English or in Italian?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I guess it would be the line we would be on, left or right. You teach it in which one for this publication? This was a core capstone seminar, as I said, and so it's offered to all disciplines, discipline students might be studying, and it was taught in English.
I think that's okay.
Yeah, and I do. When I did my recordings last summer of both the Inferno video game and the Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood, I recorded both in Italian and in English.
Okay.
I have only gotten my YouTube channel. It's ugly, but I can send you a link. It works to use the English Inferno videos, but it's proceeding slowly.
Yeah.
So for what it's worth, just as a side note, before I go on to the my other question, Brandon,
Sure.
I heard a great talk at Calico more years ago than I care to remember, right about the time that profile photo was taken, in fact,
Okay.
about a German professor who got his students to play World of Warcraft with them.
Huh.
And they only spoke German, and
Yeah.
he was, keeping very close track of the results, and their language proficiency went off the charts in certain areas because they were using it in a very applied way. This is
Yeah.
only over 4 weeks, right? Over 4
Right,
weeks. So I love what you're doing, and I love the idea of doing more language gaming, just because, again, I've seen that particular result. So here's the question for Adrian and
Wait,
Edwin.
just one sec. Was it Felix Cronenberg by any chance?
I met him at Vanderbilt in December. I wondered, either him or David Neville.
I can't remember his name. He was at a university in Pennsylvania, but it wasn't the University of Pennsylvania.
Oh, that was Steve Thorne.
No, that name I would remember too. I could look it up at some point.
Sorry, we're name dropping here.
Right. So here's my other question. When you first said you were looking for foreign language stuff, I was thinking primarily of, sort of introductory first and second year language courses. But are you also interested in advanced language courses, courses that do literature, et cetera?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's relevant. That's relevant at the high school and university levels. There's upper level high school students or AP high school students who are absolutely doing that kind of work. So I think any level is absolutely relevant.
Because actually, I work these days more closely with faculty who are doing that kind of stuff, hands-on in the advanced language classes, and I can think of some very interesting technology experiments we've done.
Absolutely. And there is very little going on at the graduate level in language courses, but then again, that would be really interesting to find those people who are doing this kind of digital humanities type of work at the graduate level as well.
Think of, actually, I am consulting on a graduate level Spanish course this quarter that's using Scalar to explore an aspect of Spanish literature that I'm not going to try and explain, but I'm going to talk to the teacher of it and see if she wants to try and explain it for the article.
Yeah, and absolutely. Actually, I was going to say, talk to the people around you, people who do interesting things. Let them know that this is where we want this to be more of a community. So, and it's a publication opportunity. It will not get you tenured, but
sure.
But more people will read what you publish.
Thank you.
Of course. Let's see. Nicholas, are you around? Can you hear us? How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Do you have anything in mind, or?
I was wondering about the tech highlights and what kind of limitations you had on that. I've been going to a whole bunch of EdTech Startup Week things in Boulder this past week. There's another one there's a bigger one over the weekend in Denver. And I've seen some pretty interesting things. I don't know how useful they would always be. And I'm not going there with the purpose of, I'm going to come away with an interview or an FLTMAG, but if I do see something interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
How big, or is there any, would you prefer?
They're 500 words usually. It's really about saying, here is this tool, here is what it does, here is how much it costs, here is how you can use it in your classroom, here are good things about it, here are lacking features. And it's really great because we've been doing this for a few years, and often the developers contact us and say, hey, thanks for the review, we'll work on those features. So,
Sure.
it's really about making people aware. We're really trying to stay away from expensive technologies. We're trying to focus on free-ish or, a freemium type of tools.
Sure.
But
okay.
send me a list and, we'll pick something.
Okay. Yeah, if I can come up with another, that was pretty much it.
Yep. Sounds good. I'm just, we really want submissions for July. So I see a person named Abby. Abby, are you listening to us? Yes.
I'm here. I don't know if you guys can hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great.
Where are you located?
I'm at UIC in Chicago.
Okay, and so are you interested in potentially submitting something to the FLTMAG, or were you just here just out of curiosity?
We may. So I work at a faculty resource center for language faculty using technology and teaching.
Okay.
So lots of interesting things going on. So the center might be interested. The our faculty might be interested. I was actually kind of curious about the tech highlights. I have actually one little question in there, which is your thoughts on graduate student publication.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have research assistants
Yeah.
who do a lot of tool research as part of their job.
And the FLTMAG is also a great way for graduate students to get their feet wet with publishing.
Mhm.
The tech highlights are just a very easy, friendly way to do that. And the people who've done it before, really, they were really excited to just have it done, have it published. They learned more about the tool because they had to look at it a little bit more in detail. So yes, absolutely. I also think, since we have a number of people who work in support positions attending the webinar, I'm thinking that publishing with a faculty member with whom you've done some work is also a good idea, because you kind of bring the instructional design background, and they are in the classroom. So if you've worked on projects and implemented projects, you can write about the project. I think it would also be interesting to hear about the workflow of working with faculty and what works and what doesn't work. All these are just potentially interesting publications.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. And finally, Heidi. Hi, Heidi.
Hey, Advish, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm great. So I have a couple ideas running through my mind, which is normal.
Okay.
So I was either thinking possibly continue on with digital storytelling in Adobe Spark, because I've actually taken it even further this week with my students, and it's going amazingly well.
Okay.
So there's that option.
Yeah.
Or I was thinking do something along the lines of what I do with my partnership, because a lot of people kind of are like, well, how do we even form a partnership with a school abroad? How does it work? I know in 50/40, I'm getting lots of questions all the time about, well, what's it like having a partner school and working with it? So it's like I kind of have both of those ideas kind of running through my mind.
All right, Heidi, just for the people who are listening to this webinar, I just want to give you a little bit of background information. Heidi is a student in my program, and so she's been working on digital storytelling. She was already doing a lot of digital storytelling projects, but she did a more extensive one that she's going to present on through a webinar in June. And Heidi is a French teacher who works very closely with a partner class in France, and so she also has a lot of telecollaborative type of experiences. And so, Heidi, I would love for you to kind of write about how you use digital storytelling together with your partnership.
Absolutely. I can do that.
Yeah, that'd be great. And, Abby in the chat room says that she would love to hear about Spark. So, actually a tech highlight on Spark, if anybody wants to do it, would probably
I could do it.
Okay, so
it's my favorite thing right now.
Okay, it's really good. Careful, you're taking a lot of classes this summer, ma'am.
I know.
But yes, Spark is a great tool. It's really easy to use, and there's really something missing for digital storytelling, because Photo Story is really a sunset program, and iMovie is not that easy to use, and you need a Mac, and I don't find Movie Maker particularly easy to use. So yeah, definitely. All right, so Heidi's writing about digital storytelling, and then I'm going to be touching base with everybody who attended today, and I'll be waiting for a first draft by the end of next week.
Right.
Right. So yes, I'll be in touch. I'll touch base with everybody, and just to kind of follow up the conversation and get the ball rolling. Maybe you want to submit something small for July. Maybe you want to work on something more substantial for November. Yeah, just go ahead. Read what we've published. You'll see it's very practical. It's really informative, and this is kind of what we're going for. Okay. All right. I was going to say it's Friday, but it's so not Friday. Because I usually do all my webinars on Friday at 4. So it's not. Brandon, did you have a question? unmute your microphone.
No, I just can't get my hand to go back down for some reason. So I don't know.
I'm getting sore. I'm going to lower your hand. I lowered your hand.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
It's starting to get sore. My arm too. It's
Right. All right, it's great, everybody. I'm going to stop the recording, and I'll upload this to my YouTube channel, and then I'll share it with the people who signed up for the webinar. And stay in touch, follow the magazine on Facebook, and also don't hesitate. If you have a lot of time on your hands and you want to become involved with the magazine itself, let us know. I'll tell you that it's work. It's definitely work. It's kind of rewarding. But you know, if anything, we're really looking for scouts, like people who go to conferences and hear interesting topics and go to the people who presented and say, hey, publish in the FLTMAG. So yeah, we would love some help with just starting getting a flow of submission.
Spread the word.
Yep, let the world know about the magazine. All right, everybody, I'm stopping the recording.